with Reygan, our newest member of Rettro Group, and I'm going to show her about how to measure a house. So we got a new listing coming up here in Carrollton. Tax record is showing 2410 square feet. I know that that's incorrect. I think we figured out where the error might be, but we're going to show you guys how to measure a house. What appraisers typically do, and when they measure square footage, did you know that they measure the exterior of the home, not just the interior?
Okay.
So we're going to get the front of the house and we're trying to go around the outside and get it measured. And right here you see we got 58 feet 3 inches. All right, you can drop it. Roll it back up, start over. We have to write that measurement down so we don't forget it. And keep going around the house. You got to pull it tight, about the same height. You good? 28.3, 28 feet 3 inches. Kind of see there's a little bit of a porch. We got some wet paint, so we have to measure that wall. We can actually measure it underneath and we can't get up there. So we'll just measure on the bottom side of the porch and then we'll measure it back across, and then this comes out a little bit up top. So that's where you have to kind of measure what that is distance wise. So what we're going to try to do is eyeball how far this comes out. So if you come out from the wall, just look up, see how far we have coming out. Approximately, is that 18 inches? All right, 18 inches. Yeah, when you have offsets like that, that's where some of your square footage can hide and add up to what's going on. All right, so this is the one that we measured with Justin and Reygan. A little bit more complicated. I think we figured out the biggest error. So looking here, we've obviously drawn all of our tax records and doing measurements, but on this particular property, it was showing 2410, which I knew was wrong. It seemed too small, but they also didn't list any additional info, square footage down here. I think what happens sometimes when you have an older structure, they didn't have the exact sketch. This is done after the fact by the tax assessor. They go and measure the house at some point in time to make sure they get the taxes correct. They called one area a utility room of 786 feet, which is about the same size as this right here. And the way this house actually comes together, there was an addition made at some point in time, probably back in the 80s, but you got the main house here and a little hallway, and it connects. You got, this is about the same, this goes up just a little bit and that goes down just a little bit. So it's kind of like a little bit of a split level, but it's not really a basement. So they called that a utility room unfinished, but that square footage added back to it got our number over 3,000 feet. And that was one of the biggest things we had to figure out where it was. But after we did our measurements, it was off 1 or 2 feet here or there, but it gained it on the other side. So we're pretty confident in our numbers that adding what the tax figures had with that right there, it's within about 3 or 4 feet of what we think it is. Measuring a house square footage, we briefly touched on it. It's very important when you know that there's an error or potential error in the square footage to make sure that it's right. Tax records are good, it's good information, but like I said, a lot of times it's added after the fact for when the house is actually built. So where that can come into play for representing a homeowner and selling a property, if the square footage is calculated wrong, especially if you have more square footage than what you're advertising, the price per square foot on some of the consumer sites looks as though the price is more expensive than what it really is, the price per square foot. When that getting put back into a realistic scenario, the house seems to be a more attractive price for what you really have to purchase. Therefore, more buyers are willing to come forward and make an offer versus just turn their nose up thinking that the seller is asking an unrealistic price based upon the square footage that is being shown on MLS. And a lot of this stuff just transfers over from tax records. It's public data, it's good information, it's a good start, but you have to go back and double check these things to make sure that it's correct. This particular house that we found here, and it's almost 800 square feet difference, and that's huge when you're looking at a price point of something under 300,000. So end result, we priced it where it needed to be. We put it with the correct square footage, and we ended up selling it for over asking price, and that's called the seller winning.